Yep. All right, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome back. We are going to get started again. I know Sarah is trying to sell electric school buses at the moment, and Kareen's doing development deals as we speak on agrivoltaics. But we're going to move on to our next panel. So, you've heard about a range of the large challenges and problems that partner organizations are facing. And they threw out a lot of questions of where do they need solutions, innovators, new innovations, new ventures to come forward. And now we transition into who are some of those folks? What are they doing? What are the kinds of things that they're bringing forward? So this is a clean energy pitch competition. Thrilled to be able to host this. We have 5 teams, a little on format here. Each are going to do a 5-minute pitch. All the questions are going to come from our lovely judges in the front. Can you wave your, say hello, judges? We have GE Vernova, we've got Ecosystem Integrity Fund, we've got Yale Ventures, we've got Yale Planetary Solutions. So we have science, venture, massive technology partners, early stage investors who are all going to be evaluating this one. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. The teams are each going to pitch 5 minutes, as I said, and they're going to get only questions from our judges, 3 to 5 minutes there. And then our judges will retire at the end of the session. They'll take about an hour or however long it takes to decide on the winners. We're going to offer 2 prizes here. We've got one prize, first place, $2,000, and a second place prize of $1,000 in the pitch competition. And we'll be announcing those tomorrow prior to our keynote with Heat Map News. So everybody stick around, and then you get to see who is selected and picked. So thrilled here today to have 5 wonderful teams. We're going to bring them up one at a time. And first up is Harness. And Harness is an AI-powered finance platform connecting renewable energy developers in West Africa with global investors. Marlo, come on up. It's great to have you back. Marlo was a first-year MBA student last year. We got to work with her. Fantastic human being. Got so into this that she's now full-time on it. We hope to bring her back to finish the MBA at some point in the future, but fully dedicated to it. So great to see you, Marlo.
Sweet. All righty. Hello. Oh, I'm making one of these. 1 second. There you go. Can you hear me? Okay. There you go. All right. Hello, my name is Marlo, and I'm the founder of Harness. We are an AI marketplace that connects renewable energy developers in Africa with global investors. Our mission is very simple. We are de-risking investment into renewable energy projects in emerging markets. The UNDP estimates that over $2.5 trillion is needed yearly to reach the SDG goals by 2030. And Africa offers a great opportunity with abundant energy projects, yet developers, they face a lot of critical barriers. The market is fragmented. We have opaque due diligence processes that result in high perceived risk, and SMEs are limited in their capacity to structure and to scale projects. On the global investor side, investors lack visibility into credible local opportunities. Harness is here to change that. With our AI-powered marketplace, we connect developers to investors, and with our data engine and AI algorithm, we automate risk assessment to de-risk projects. We standardize due diligence to speed financing, and we offer blended finance models that unlock catalytic capital. We focus on capacity building for SMEs to ensure sustainability and scalability. Our product, the Harness Marketplace, offers an AI-driven matchmaking solution that presents ESG and finance metrics on a centralized dashboard. We enable developers to manage their projects, investors to evaluate risk, and with transparent insights, we reduce the cost and the time that it takes to complete due diligence by over 60%. So we're not replacing due diligence, but we are optimizing the process. We gain revenue through transaction fees on deal closure and origination, subscription for analytics, and white label solutions for institutional investors like DFIs or other regulators. The global clean energy financing market is a $1.6 trillion opportunity. And West African projects offer a near-term opportunity of $23 billion. At Harness, we are addressing a $122 million immediate obtainable market opportunity, and within the renewable energy market itself in Africa, it's growing at over 24% CAGR. And that's pretty impressive. We are focused currently in Ghana, Senegal, and Nigeria as our potential market, and we'll be expanding across Africa for even more opportunity. Our peers, such as Cross Boundary or Odyssey, they focus on utility-size projects. And for the most part, these projects are considered bankable. It's pretty much easy to prove that return. But we focus specifically on smaller scale projects to C&I projects that would otherwise be considered unbankable because of that perception of risk. With our AI algorithm and localized approach, we understand our market and we've built products for their needs. We are past concept. We have already gained support from partners like the NVIDIA Inception Program and universities such as Yale and others local to the Ghanaian market. And we've partnered with the Energy Commission of Ghana to design early pilots for regulators and local developers. These are some of the local developers that we've already partnered with, some who have developed projects across multiple countries but cannot get past that 30% interest rate. So they've signed on to our product, and we currently are beta testing our MVP and designing future large language model optimization features for their interests. We work with partners across investment groups and industry associations as well as regulators, and we see ourselves as thought leaders. We are also marketing through targeted campaigns and on-the-ground presence, and we'll continue to test our product in Ghana for the next year and move into Senegal and Nigeria for data collection and testing our large language model. And then we'll expand across the broader African continent by end of 2027 into 2028. Our team has over 10 years of expertise in renewable energy, project financing, and product development, building products for some of the largest global institutions like Google and others. We also can gain support from advisors such as Rob from Elm Street Ventures and accelerators such as Climate Haven. We're currently raising pre-seed, and with those funds, we will continue to develop our product and our AI algorithm and convert signed LOIs into contracts and launch and scale our products in our targeted markets. Join us in de-risking the clean energy financing marketplace at harnessafrica.com. So for the Q&A, I'm inviting my co-founder, Jesse, who is also a student at Yale, and we will answer any questions you have.
Thanks for your presentation. I'm curious how you get local projects, onto the marketplace. So do you vet them? What's your interaction? How do you bring them on board?
Great question. Yes, we have spent over 3 years in this market understanding it and building relationships that now we have leveraged into these partnerships with the Energy Commission, and they have offered us a vetted list of developers that we know that are actually building projects that can be invested into. And then we've gone through the process with our local team that does manual due diligence and then onboards them onto our platform. We're currently beta testing with the 5 that I showed you right here. And we've capped it at these 5 to ensure that we're building out our products and our due diligence process in a way that tailors the needs of investors as a priority.
Maybe I could ask a question about the other side of the marketplace. It would be great to hear a little bit more about these LOIs, like in particular what the investors are saying are the things they'd like to see accomplished to be able to move from LOI to contract, and your plan to address those issues.
I think first and foremost, like investors moving into frontier markets like Ghana, they just want to know the projects are real, right? Because most of the investors that we have signed LOIs with and are looking to bring onto the platform, they're not new to the space. They are climate tech investors. But what they want to see is, number one, do these projects actually exist? Right? They don't have people on the ground, but we do. So taking something as simple as pictures to show them that this is a real project by someone who's a part of our team that we trust, and therefore they can too, is the first step. The second step is proving through our fitness scoring that this can realize between 15 and 18% for investors who are used to seeing an ROI of 12 to 15% in the current renewable energy market.
Can you tell a little bit more about the supply chain risks for deploying any of the renewable energy projects, especially there's a shortage of electronics, transformers, or whatever the equipment's here in this particular market that you're focusing on? Thank you.
Absolutely. So we don't necessarily reduce or remove all risk because there is some real risk to this market. But what we make it clear is that some of the risk is kind of overestimated. And so there is risk in the supply chain, but that's why we work with developers who have been in this market for, like Tino Solutions, for over 20 years. They have the infrastructure built, and they work with us to actually just raise the funding. And so we're not necessarily the ones developing the projects. We're just making sure that they get a chance to gain the funding that they rightfully deserve.
And to add just a little bit more onto that, these are all behind-the-meter projects. The Ghana Energy Commission is currently trying to roll out a net metering system across the entire country, but that's slow, and we're trying to talk to them, see how we can speed that up and how we can help with that. But for the time being, they're all behind the meter, which means it's really the developer and the off-taker really getting panels on their roofs to power that particular building. And so really all of the components that are needed for that kind of photovoltaic system, partners like Tino Solutions in particular, who has been in the market for just over a decade now, already has literally an in-house supply of like inverters and panels and all the necessary components for them to build. He's actually supplying some of the other developers with these supplies for their systems.
One other thing to add, so larger institutions and developers often use smaller SMEs in these markets to actually complete the projects on the ground. So they're contracting these developers, but they don't necessarily get the funding to then scale their own projects. So they're definitely equipped with the experience and the technical know-how, but it's more so a limitation of access to capital.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic work, Harness. Thank you for kicking us off in the right way. All right, next up to the stage, I'd like to bring Decarb Energy Partners, transforming PFAS-laden wastewater treatment sludge into carbon-negative biofuel. Kevin, come on up.
Awesome, thank you. Great, thanks so much. So I'm Kevin Gallagher, founder and managing partner of Decarb Energy, Yale College, class of 2021, and proud to be building in New Haven as part of the Climate Haven ecosystem and their incubator program. So simply put, Decarb Energy, we take some of the most toxic, difficult wastes, particularly wastewater treatment plant sludge contaminated with PFAS forever chemicals, and turn that into American-made carbon-negative biofuel on-site with zero partner CapEx with modular units that will be built right here in the state of Connecticut. So the problem is a four-letter word, PFAS, forever chemicals, and Connecticut is a hotspot. PFAS are synthetic toxic compounds that build up in the groundwater, drinking water, wastewater, and particularly wastewater sludge. We don't like to think about what happens once water goes down the drain, but the reality is wastewater's critical infrastructure is in crisis, and there's no good solution to deal with the residual solid waste left behind. The options today are landfilling, incineration, or spreading on agricultural fields, all of which come with risks, environmental liability, and environmental justice disparities. The solution, meet the Biosolid Plus box. This is turnkey waste-to-value equipment that processes sludge on site, knocks the forever out of forever chemicals, and also produces biofuel, biochar, and liquid carbon dioxide. We asked ourselves, why can't energy development be as simple as switching on a mobile power generator? No smokestacks, no permanent infrastructure, no grid connection, no science experiments, just simple, factory-built, plug-and-play equipment that bolts on to the end of existing infrastructure. To make this happen, I call myself the Chief Lego Officer because we're piecing together industrially proven, off-the-shelf pieces tailor-made to wastewater, PFAS destruction, and permit-light hyper-modularity. By putting together pieces that already exist, we are able to unlock bankability and project finance and accelerate our time to market. The opportunity is wastewater is everywhere. There are 17,000 public plus 10,000 private facilities, all looking for an answer to both PFAS and biosolid disposal. And our path to market is simple. We're advancing deployments right now for our initial flagship developments, and the initial trailers will be built with partnership with contract manufacturers as we simultaneously prepare to scale up a Connecticut-anchored mass production facility. Think auto assembly line with clean tech hardware, standard modules rolling off to fund a Connecticut, then national, then international rollout. Like our equipment, our business model is tailor-made to wastewater and the realities of capital-constrained, cash-strapped municipalities. The offer, infrastructure as a service. Zero partner CapEx. Instead, we trade PFAS liability and rising costs with lower, predictable fees per ton rates that undercut what's being charged today. On top of that, we add cash flow share from biofuel and credit monetization. Plus, operators can sleep at night. They know the PFAS is destroyed and they're not going to get sued. So, sorry. Sorry, technical difficulties. With that, okay, well, sorry, missing slide on my part. Yeah, we're rolling to market, and the bottom line is we convert pollution into profit, turn wastewater facilities into micro biofuel hubs, and save taxpayers money while addressing PFAS head on. It's not only possible to build healthier communities and address PFAS, but it's also profitable for everyone involved. I'll conclude with just saying thank you to the ecosystem in which we're a part of. Thank you to Climate Haven, thank you to Forge, and it's a privilege to be a part of this event.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. I'm curious about the cost of treatment. I mean, PFAS destruction continues to be a very expensive endeavor. How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So for the municipality, it's negative cost almost, because we come in, we offer them a discount to what they're currently being charged. So say they're paying $100 a ton, we come in 5-10% below that, $90 a ton. And for them, it's infrastructure as a service, so no capital costs. And then the secret is we have diversified, contractually guaranteed long-term revenue from waste destruction, biofuel, like long-term take-or-pay offtake, and then credit monetization as well. So that unlocks asset financing, especially because these are contractually guaranteed cash flows that unlock like asset finance, project finance, and like long-term like amortization of the asset. I'm assuming you're asking what it actually costs. on par with similar modular trailer-mounted units. Think between 7 and 8 million apiece.
Great presentation. Can you talk a little bit about verification of PFAS destruction, since you're selling that? And just because PFAS is disappearing doesn't mean it's becoming something that's better or that we want out in the environment. So both destruction and what you're creating.
Yep, you're spot on, and that's one of the biggest value propositions that wastewater operators get really excited about. Because one thing that we do is do the PFAS testing, hand them a certificate of destruction saying this is third-party verification that the PFAS it's gone, thermally decomposed, and it gets defluorinated in both the high-temperature gasification process and then a polishing thermal oxidation step, so like an afterburner. The beautiful thing about PFAS is if you design for it from the get-go, it's quite predictable to deal with. Anything over 1100 degrees C to 2.5 seconds residence time, the PFAS will thermally decompose. So that's been one of our North Stars from the get-go.
Maybe another business model or finance question. So
Yep.
could you talk us through your thinking about the as-a-service model where you take the CapEx? I mean, I would imagine many of the municipalities you'd be selling to have very excellent credit ratings. They might be able to get access to capital cheaper than you could. Maybe take us through the reasoning there, or maybe is there an option to offer different pricing models?
Yep, you're spot on. We're trying to stay within what municipalities are used to the best of our ability. What they're used to today is third-party haulers that take the biosolids, haul it off, and then either landfill it, incinerate it, or spread it on an agricultural field. So what they're used to is the per fee structure. And we're coming in, bolting onto their process, staying within those guidelines, and also not putting stress on their capital budgets. While there's still lead pipes in the ground and combined sewer overflow issues, a lot of the focus is being diverted elsewhere. So the value prop of coming in saying, hey, we take care of all the infrastructure, own, operate, maintain, finance. We also take care of the credit monetization. $0 to you. We'll actually pay you for this liability. Let's play ball. And the feedback is, this is too good to be true. What's the catch? But after walking through exactly how it works, the overall system, it creates incredible alignment between us and our process and the host facility where we want to enter into a long-term relationship and grow together over time. So we will have flexibility if certain municipalities do want ownership and want to color outside the lines of the boilerplate model that we have, but the overall market reception for the as-a-service model has been strong.
Can you talk a little bit more about the energy efficiency of the system, saying how much electricity you needed to convert one unit system and how that's add on to the total carbon impact to the system?
Yep. So the trailer is completely islanded, completely plug and play, no grid connection, no permanent infrastructure. So it runs off a slipstream of the energy it creates. So it takes in the solid, gasifies it, and then it's a slipstream of that gas that provides the electricity that's needed to run the system. So overall, there's no fossil inputs into the unit whatsoever. In fact, actually, all the excess carbon that's not fixed in biochar or fixed in the fuel itself is filtered out, captured as liquid CO2, and then permanently removed and sequestered. So when I say carbon negative, it's not looking at a fancy counterfactual or an advanced model. This is physical liquid CO2 right here, removed from the short-term carbon cycle and permanently mineralized for like thousands of years. Of course. Thank you so much.
Great. great questions from the judges. All right. So moving on to our third competitor today, Veridu AI, solving the $450 billion spent on automatable paperwork in the 4.5 trillion annual energy infrastructure investment industry. Daniel, come on up.
Hi, I'm Daniel, founder of Veridu AI. We are building the AI infrastructure that will underpin and power the largest infrastructure build-out in human history, including 4.5 trillion in annual energy infrastructure investment. So we all know we need to deploy trillions in infrastructure, and the bottleneck used to be construction timelines, equipment costs, but no more. The biggest bottleneck now to deploying enough capacity on the grid fast enough is soft costs. It still takes on average 5 years to get all the paperwork in place. Five years on average to get all the paperwork in place to get a project ready for construction that only takes 1 year. Our industry has a 500 billion annual automatable paperwork problem. Worse, 50% of projects never get built, wasting all that time and money. We're literally building paper stacks instead of solar racks. So where do we start? We're starting at the choking point, the highest stakes moment in a project's lifecycle. In due diligence, when a project is looking for financing and fatal problems are discovered too late. Take this 300 megawatt project in New Mexico, solar PV. 5 years in development, land rights, interconnection agreed, permits in place. Yet 3 months into diligence, council tells us that the one access road to the project, which is an unpaved ranch track, crosses 600 feet of BLM land. And the developer wrongly assumed that it was a county road. So now, because it's BLM land, it triggers a NEPA review, which takes 12 to 18 months. PPA deadlines are missed, and tax credit access is delayed, wasting 3 months and $600K of diligence fees for the financier. This is not an isolated incident. 50% of the time, in fact, for most of our customers, 80% of projects that go into diligence fail late in the process after spending 3 months and $500,000 on it. So enter Veridu AI. We bring what used to take 3 months and $500,000 into day one of a potential transaction, enabling IPPs and infrastructure investors to lower transaction costs, minimize risks, and most importantly, deploy more capital into higher quality assets. So who are we to do this? I've lived this problem firsthand on over 10 billion in energy M&A, both in private equity as well as on the advisory side at McKinsey. I bring together a decade of energy industry expertise, knowledge, and credibility, together with the master's level understanding of AI from Yale, amongst others, well beyond the buzzword bingo and hype, and 3, actual startup track record, having been the first product manager at a B2B SaaS startup that I helped scale from seed to Series B, with the first product that I launched from them going from 0 to 1 million in ARR in just 6 months. My co-founder, Xander, and CTO, is a unicorn. Most people these days claim to have done agentic AI. Well, he has done so at a real company in production in a high-stakes environment, being one of the largest reinsurance companies in the world, where he built agentic AI for contract review, which is hyper-relevant for us, given that most of what we diligence is contractual-like language or contracts. On top of it, he also brings energy industry expertise. He's done $1 trillion worth of insured energy assets there. He's ex-Shell, where he did predictive maintenance for energy generation. And he's been a founding engineer before, hired and led AI teams. So where do we stand today? We know our ICPs super well. We have been our ICPs. We've got access, multiple design partners, and a paid pilot customer, and millions in ARR in our active sales pipeline. Our product is running live diligences. This is not a lovable prototype. We've got a sophisticated agentic AI architecture, but we're not going to stop at due diligence. Our vision is to become the pre-construction AI operating system for all infrastructure, replacing that 500 billion in annual admin and compliance costs and paperwork with our agentic AI, all the way from from development into financing. After bootstrapping for a year, we're now raising our first institutional round. 1.5 to 2 million pre-seed safe, and we have a chance for angel investors at a 50% discount. And if you're an IPP or an infrastructure investor, come talk to us about using Veridure AI and join us in turning paper stacks into solar racks. Thank you.
Next presentation, thank you. I guess the end customers for a lot of these data centers are the hyperscalers. And so I guess my question is about your moat. Like what, if they decided they wanted to throw some of their own resources at this, what is the differentiation that you have that the big AI models can't do?
Yeah, great question. And 2 or 3 things in there. One, our ICP are actually, at the moment, battery and solar investors rather than the data centers. But over time, we will target any infrastructure because the development phase is the same across pretty much all infrastructure. It's in construction and operations where they diverge significantly. In terms of our differentiation, the reality is you can't really do that with a regular off-the-shelf foundation model, and that's for a number of reasons. First of all, they don't have access to much of this proprietary data. 2, they can't actually handle, they hallucinate, they can't handle this much in their context. And there's quite a lot of sophisticated context management that we had to build that builds also on our expertise in how you actually run a due diligence like that, where you're having to combine all of the information about a project as well as then look at parts and put that into the context of everything, et cetera. And so there's that part of it. As ultimately, arguably, the big, open AIs of the world can come after every industry. Yes, we believe this is a vertical application that our expertise and our data that we've fed into it, that we've trained our agents on, is a differentiator.
Thank you very much. Can you talk a little bit more about the size of projects you're focusing on? Are they like hundreds of megawatts, gigawatts, or the smaller size, and why?
Yeah, great question. So really depends on the jurisdiction. In many ways, most of what's being done in the US is utility scale, right? 100 megawatt plus. That being said, very different in Europe. A lot of 50 megawatt type projects, a lot more volume, which is fantastic for us. And then equally, community solar in the US is also a place where the volume is high. You're typically acquiring portfolios of projects, and therefore it makes a ton of sense to use something like this, where you can look through an entire portfolio very quickly and look at which ones make sense, which ones are at the right stage, meet the investability criteria or the risk criteria of investors.
So one of the other barriers to these projects is community and license to operate in these spaces. Can you talk about how that interfaces? How will stakeholders have an opportunity to comment during the due diligence process?
Yeah, so 2 parts to that. One, in our beachhead product, we are focused on the due diligence, at which point the project is sort of as it stands, and we review the current status of the project. That being said, we're also moving from that due diligence moment in time, which is our beachhead product, because for a number of reasons that I can get into, it's a really high stakes moment. It's very expensive. Our average customer value is $150K, even for the first version of the product. But we are already getting quite a lot of pull to move into the development phase and automate parts of that. And our objective is to take everything that a human isn't needed for out of that part of the process, so we free up the human capacity to do things like community engagement. All of my friends that are developers talk about that, not having enough time and capacity to be on the ground engaging with the community, and instead having to field questions, sometimes not even during due diligence, but just by their colleagues on the status of a project, which milestones have been hit, portfolio managers asking them, et cetera. And for the first time in history, with LLMs and agentic AI, we can automate what humans are not very good at, which is managing a process where there's hundreds of stakeholders, tens of thousands of documents. And we can take that part out of their hands to free up their time to do the bits that human-to-human interaction is still really important for. Thank you. Also, join us if you want.
Great. That goes for any of these. So when you hear these and you hear Daniel asking, or you hear Harness, or you hear Decarb Energy Partners, think about the kind of time, treasure, effort, opportunity that you have to help somebody who's like putting their blood, sweat, and tears into something that matters. So it's not just the kind of like, the recognition or dollars that we can give today, but what are the kind of resources that you can bring to bear to help support these folks. So with that, love to bring up Vibrant Building Technologies, building the central nervous system for buildings and giving mechanical systems that run our homes and offices a brain. Ryan, welcome.
How y'all doing? My name is Ryan Fletcher, and I am the founder and CEO of Vibrant Building Technologies. Post starting Vibrant Building Technologies, I came out of the Marine Corps, and I spent the next decade building about $1 billion of real estate across Fairfield County. I fundamentally watched the shift and evolution of the envelope and the modernization of the envelope change through the last 10 years. And just in the state of Connecticut, if anybody's in the construction industry, you'll know that just the insulation alone has 2 to 3x'd, and now our buildings have become too airtight. So when we sealed our homes to save energy, now our homes don't breathe. What does that do? That traps in basically all the bad stuff stays inside. We have CO2 spikes, we have pollutants that are spiking, we have our viruses are staying inside those environments, and nothing's able to actually purge out. Why has this come about? Well, insulation code has obviously doubled and tripled. Post-COVID, we've all become air aware. Wildfires are now a natural part of our environment. It's not it's gonna maybe happen. It is when's it gonna happen? And the codes now are adopting ASHRAE 62.2, which mandate now mechanical ventilation just starting as soon as 5 years ago. And every year, about 6.5 million systems get changed out in the HVAC sector. What we've created is we created the sick house syndrome. So a lot of times in the building industry, you would call it sick building syndrome. What we call it is sick house syndrome. Basically, these houses don't have ventilation. So what we've done is we've created a energy recovery ventilation system with purification, with automatic sensing. So our homes and our buildings go from a static environment to a living, breathing environment that is depending on the occupancy load. What does our system do? Our system uses advanced sensors, about 29 sensors in one sensor, taking all the sensor readings from a house, from occupancy load detection to VOCs, particulate matter, radon, gases, you name it detects it, including the thermal gain and imbalances inside of a house. And it's taking control of your entire HVAC system, not just the ventilation, not just the purification process, but takes an intelligence layer across your entire mechanical system, and it tells your system how to react when and where it's most needed, while inducing ventilation through modulating 400 CFM fan motors, and then a purification process that uses nanofiltration technology on the filters, which is the same type of filtration used in data centers, along with the germicidal UVC killing. Everything is done through a app interface for the consumer and also an app interface for the contractor. So it's directly linking the hardware to the technicians in the back office. As we all know, heat pumps have been kind of like the new thing. Not that it all depends obviously on what grid and what your energy use is. I could have a lot to say about whether you should be using gas or heat pumps in different environments. But as you can see in this room right here, you can imagine the cooling load that is required to keep this room cool right now. When it's 53 degrees outside, we could be ventilating, but instead the systems in these buildings are choosing to cool. That's because these systems aren't intelligent enough in most modern day buildings and homes to realize that we can use outdoor air to heat and cool an environment versus heating or cooling it. Oh boy. When we kind of look into our value proposition stack, we are overwhelmingly better than any other option on the market today. And I don't mean that to say it lightly. It's just that I literally built our average homes were between $10 and $50 million, and this product doesn't exist. You can buy ERVs, you can buy standalone purifiers, you can buy inline purifiers, you can buy smart thermostats. But what you can't get is everything in one system with an intelligent layer over the top that then automates your entire systems. So I'm not going to get into the exact metrics, but you can imagine it does everything from IAQ sensing to germicidal killing and neutralization, and then all this data then gets aggregated into what we call home facts, which is a transferable record of basically the health and the performance of that house at any closing or sale. We believe in the long term, it'll start to help with the valuations of buildings and assets where 15 years ago, Carfaxes didn't exist, but if you were buying a car and it didn't have a Carfax, you would think twice about buying it. We've gone through many iterations of our product. Every product has been redeveloped with HVAC contractors. Our main investor actually is one of the larger HVAC contractors in the state of Connecticut. And you can see right here, we've designed it, we've built it, we've gone through all the science. We're actually halfway through our UL compliance testing right now. We use HVAC contractors, our outside sales force. We've started signing up HVAC contractors already. We have about 9 of them already contracted. We start this January, we'll be deploying our first couple hundred units into the market. We've raised, today, we've raised and invested about $3.5 million. We'll be raising an additional $2 million from our current investor stack to bring this thing until the end of this spring, which we believe at that point we'll be raising our proper seed round with have proven product market fit at a few hundred units. Our system is about $3,500 per system, so it's a pretty luxury product, but pretty aspirational to most people. And our HVAC contractors get to make a recurring VIG on the product. We breathe 20,000 times a day. We spend 90% of our time indoors. The air is the most important part to how we can actually fundamentally make ourselves perform and be healthier. That's it.
Thanks. Great presentation. Can you talk about why the residential market rather than commercial industrial?
Sure. So we're starting with the residential sector. Not to say that we aren't working with the commercial sector. So our system is designed right now for up to 5-ton air handlers. When we get into most commercial buildings, you start getting into rooftops, VRF systems that we haven't fully quantified for yet. Also, a lot of the bigger buildings like this use BMS systems. And what our system is we are really tackling kind of like the low-hanging fruit of just really a massive market of unintelligent HVAC systems across the residential sector and small office and really kind of like sub 5-story buildings.
I'm curious about the business model a little bit more. Is how do you create end customer demand? The push and pull with the HVAC technicians pushing that and creating that incentive versus the customer also asking for something like that.
So the good part is that code kind of forced their hand. So we have the kind of code behind our back. In the state of Connecticut, you can't build a house now without putting an ERV in it. You can't install a HVAC system without a filter. A basic filter in an HVAC system is a MERV 8, which is really basically like a dust collector or leaf catcher. So what we say to when we sign up an HVAC channel partner, what we've basically said is we can provide you a system that's not that much more expensive. It's actually about $400 more expensive in an overall if you were to compare it to an ERV and a standard filter box. And it allows them to sell to the customer now a system that allows them for health optimization and performance. And it's about a 3 to 4 year payback and just energy savings based on that. So it's kind of an easy sell. We've spoken to quite a bit of HVAC contractors now, and we haven't had any pushback. The other thing is that the HVAC contractors, for every system they install, there's a $65 monthly payment on every system, which pays for the disposables, the UVC, the nanofiltration, the activated carbon filters, and those they get a $100 VIG per system. So they're pretty incentivized to use our product to just be better.
Can you explain how easy it is to integrate with some of the other smart home platforms or applications?
Yeah, so our system is Thread, Matter, all compliant. We can connect if you have a head-end infrastructure in your house, like a Savant, a Control 4 system. If you have your Apple, if you like your Apple Home, you can integrate our system directly into yours. If you don't have a head-end for your house that is using basically a junction box for all your apps, our system also can tie in and be your home infrastructure. So you can connect your Sonos, your lighting control, everything else you want through our system, or you can plug and play ours into whatever software you're using. As far as the integration of our hardware into any mechanical system, the only thing that we require is that you have a smart thermostat for integration. We can the way that we control your HVAC system is over the air through the smart thermostat. But your system could be 20 years old. Well, I don't think most 20-year-old systems are still working, but if it was, or it could be a brand new system. The market we're going after, day one is, we're starting up market and we're starting with change outs and new constructions.
Yeah, maybe picking up where you left off there. So I imagine the initial targeting is both people who care a lot about air quality and can pay the premium price point. But the example you used at this auditorium where, you could envision cost savings as well. And so how close are you to a positive ROI where you can tell a story to a customer about this will actually save you money on your heating and cooling bills?
Well, I guess it's all kind of what smoke and mirror you want to sell them, because there is a upfront cost, and at the end of the day, our system draws about 5 amps. So if you were a if you were kind of like a gross person and you kept all your windows closed all winter long, like our system is going to add money to your bill. If you were somebody that was trying to keep your house ventilated and you were actually having let me pull back for a second. Every house and every building, well, 99% of them are on a negative air pressure. So what happens with our system, our system puts your home into a positive pressure. So everything outside stays outside, and then we can control the interior environment. The reason why HVAC systems they're overutilizing energy is because they're a closed loop system that it can only work with what it has inside. So the minute we can start inducing ventilation from the outside with modulating CFM fan motors and be able to dictate what zone it goes to, it allows us to really use ambient temperature outside to really start heating and cooling that space. What we've done in very small scale is we look at it as like a 3 to 4 year payback, but that doesn't include the health savings of getting sick less. Doesn't include your HVAC. When we start automating the repair cycles, we have analytical remote diagnosis across your entire HVAC system. So now, when your system's about to fail, we'll be sending a pop-up to you saying that, hey, fan motor on number unit 2 is about to go, or you have a line set differential temperature, and that allows your HVAC technicians to show up prepared instead of unprepared and get a bill for 3 hours of diagnostic time. So I think there's a lot of layers that we're going to have to cut into, and really what that value prop is. Day one, what we're looking at is it's a very, very little lift to get somebody to use our system versus just being code compliance.
Thanks so much. Wow. Putting the science in building science right there. All right, our last pitch for today is Riseline Carbon. So reimagining carbon offsetting for the ski industry and mountain communities. Lizzie, come on up.
Hi everyone, I'm Lizzie Vanderkloot, co-founder and CEO of Riseline Carbon. Our work focuses on localizing durable carbon removal. We build and support local carbon removal projects in the communities where carbon is actually being stored. We're starting in the Mountain West, where I'm from, and where climate impacts and wildfire stresses are very real and very present. Since this is a clean energy conference, I want to start with a familiar example. Rooftop solar didn't scale because we built a few huge solar farms. It scaled because we aggregated thousands of small systems. These distributed systems succeeded because they fit into communities. We believe carbon removal can scale the same way. Today's carbon markets are built to reward very large centralized projects. Don't get me wrong. They've pushed the field forward, but they've also reinforced a narrow idea of what scale can look like. Durable carbon removal doesn't have to be industrial to be real or to scale. Communities are already doing the work, reducing fuels, improving soils, keeping forests healthy. The carbon benefits are there, they're just distributed, and the current system isn't set up to see or finance them. At Riseline, we're challenging that. We're building the market infrastructure that makes it possible to aggregate many small place-based projects so that they add up to something truly scalable, while keeping the benefits in the communities that are already doing the work. In the Mountain West, land managers are already thinning forests to reduce wildfire risk. The default practice is to pile and burn that material. It's emissions intensive, but it's cheap. If we instead convert that same biomass into biochar, a type of durable carbon removal, we can store carbon for centuries, improve soil and water retention, and support healthier, more fire-resilient forests. Carbon credits can make biochar cost competitive with pile burning, but only if these projects are aggregated to meet volume requirements. Riseline aggregates many small and mid-sized biochar projects into one coordinated network. This allows us to reduce project-level financial costs, meet project volumes for registries and buyers, and keep the economic value in the communities already doing the work. This isn't a centralized facility model. It's a cooperative network. It's more resilient, faster to deploy, and scales horizontally. In our field operations, small to mid-sized units can produce anywhere from 3 to 9 tons of carbon removal per day. If that same biomass were instead pile burned, it would release anywhere from 30 to 200 tons of carbon dioxide equivalents. This is not just a marginal improvement, it's a complete reversal of the carbon outcome, from net carbon emitting to net carbon removal. Large centralized biochar facilities face high upfront costs, feedstock transportation inefficiencies, and financial uncertainties. Whereas distributed systems use feedstock that's already being taken down for forest fire management, have lower capital requirements, create local jobs, and can get deployed today, not years from now. Even with the volatility of the carbon market, this small unit modeled here can still withstand price fluctuations. Moreover, this is looking purely at price sensitivity from carbon credits alone, not potential additional payments for ecosystem services or selling a portion of the char produced. My co-founder in this work is Dr. Noah Planovsky, a globally recognized leader in carbon removal science, with over 200 publications and significant research funding. I've had the privilege of working with Noah for several years across both research and applied projects, including his other startups, Crew Carbon and Lithos Carbon. Now we're building Riseline together, bringing durable carbon removal back to mountain communities like my own, and we're already putting it into practice. Here are a few snapshots from our pilots and early partners. These are the mountain communities already removing carbon, already improving forests and watershed health, already creating local economic value. Aggregated carbon removal is scalable, community-rooted, durable, financially feasible, and ready now. And we couldn't be more excited to see it continue to grow. Thank you.
It's a great presentation, thank you. Could you say a little bit more about the verification and certification for these carbon credits, especially for distributed projects that might just be many different kinds of projects?
Absolutely. So in the distributed model, people are using the same systems. And so with that, you collect all the data from all of those. And these are all mainly in one area. So you can optimize costs for the verifiers, all coming to visit these projects at the same time, is how that works. Did that answer your question? I'm happy to expand.
I'll just go again. Also curious, what other markets are you looking at beyond this one? Where would you look to scale next, geographically speaking?
Yeah. Besides the ski industries in the Mountain West, the wine industry, the vineyards, along with, we also do enhanced rock weathering in some of these places as well, so going vertically across the different carbon removal pathways.
Great, thanks, Elise. Well, thank you, audience. And first, can everyone give a huge round of applause to all the people who pitched today? Judges have a very hard decision, but you do not, which is, at an early stage like this, the network you can offer, a connection, an introduction, any type of support that someone at an early stage like this can receive could be critical. And so if you see something here that interested you and where you have something to offer, please go say something to the 5 teams that are here and took the time to pitch and are putting blood, sweat, and tears into building something.